Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1971 Winter Baseball Classic Tournament prep show. More about building out this league. When we last left, we were showing how we had to add the waivered players from the league, of which there were 64 at one point. When we go back to the original look of the 1971 team and their waivered players are 2 players per 32 baseball teams. When you sort it all out to the 640 guys in the 1971 league, we have these number of cards here, which are thrown out as they are the nameless cards written into the league to get to 640. There's going to be more of these, as Strat-O-Matic does not have 605 cards in the original set of 71. They only have 576. That's 24 times 24. 24 teams, 20 regular players, 4 additional players for a grand total of 576. So you're going to find that there's more of these purple nameless cards up here in various parts. Now, we also know that we have 192 players in our summer league, and they're taking the break. They're not going to be participating in this tournament. Their cards are left alone in the summer league, waiting for the draft and finding out who their new teammates are going to be. So we've got to the point here where we started this draft, and we had 64 waivered guys. Here they are, 2 per team, starting in record row 500 to 563, I believe. Yep. We knew that some of these players had played in previous Winter Baseball Classics for corresponding team codes here, so they were just moved over. And then we drafted out the remaining guys, so each team got 4, a grand total of 4. And this is team 1, in this case, is HAX, which stands for Halifax team. They get 4, and they all do get 4 players. They get 4 waivered players added to the rosters of guys coming back to their Winter Baseball Classic destinations in previous years. So where does that leave us? We still have empty roster spots. We have a mixed bag of seeing that for each team, you see they have a waivered player in yellow. They have these blue keepers of the Summer League, guys like Reggie Smith here and Jim Spencer, who are being protected by the Cardinals after getting a trade from the Red Sox, and California's protecting Spencer. And this is an evaluation of the Jim Spencer card. Should we take this Spencer card versus a card in 72, 3, or 4? So we get a chance to play the card with this little Winter Baseball Classic tournament. These light green shaded guys, again, these are guys who are in the Summer League but in the years of 72 or 73. They're just filling out roster spots now because you need to have a quantity of players to play this league. You need 320 out of what was originally 576 available players to play this thing. Then you also have these colorless, the white ones here. These are guys who have yet to be in the league or were in the league a couple years ago and weren't in it last year. Like Bruce Del Canton, I think he may have been in the league once and then he left. Now he's trying to come back. Jim Maloney, again, was definitely in the league, but then he had a terrible year, I believe, in 70, and he's trying to come back. Anyway, we're to the point in the draft. Let me scroll down for a moment. So once you get past the 320 rows, and again, we have blank rows here for teams. These are vacant roster spots that need to be filled. So we've counted out, we do need 320 roster positions. We have the same number of these light green players who are in the carryover league in 72 or 73, where they're better, theoretically. So we don't need to necessarily get these guys into the league, though if we were shorthanded, we could, right? But these are the keepers. These are the guys that are going to be drafted in a summer league, and it might be a good idea to take a look at some of them. There's a couple guys who are put on the retired list who still continue a baseball career. They're not very good. Might be good to look at them. The next letter should have been W, but guess what? They're all gone. All the waivered guys who were after the retirees, I can show you that here. You see that? We had the Ks, all the K keepers, the retired, and then all the waivered guys. Well, all the waivered guys have been moved up. The 64 guys are moved into the Winter Baseball Classic, so that part of the process is done. We still need to find some rosters, spots. I think I'm gonna do this live here with some keepers and see how long I want to go with this, and then I'll call it for the video for tonight. We have these players as well, have been free agents the entire time, not been able to get into the league. These are your hitters, these are your pitchers. And lastly, of course, the guys at the bottom, the nameless cards, I'm not getting into the league because these are handwritten cards. I have no need to look at those players. They're just placeholders. They're just letting us know that they are in Major League Baseball somewhere, but not playing baseball per se in a tournament or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some keepers into the carryover league, these guys, and they're all mixed up, sorted alphabetically by the team that's keeping them, and they're going to be hitters and pitchers mingled throughout, commingling here. And we're going to go right to where we would begin with the first team up is HAX for the Halifax squad. And according to this bit of information, they're looking for just 3 pitchers, and they have an offense already built out. So let me just double verify that. You know, looking at holding the cards, they have 12 hitters, and they have 5 pitchers. So we're going to get them a pitcher from the keeper list, and they need a left-handed reliever. They have Stan Bonson, Ken Holtzman, Les Kane in the rotation, along with Phil Reagan and Eddie Watt in the bullpen. They need a lefty reliever. So we're going to go down to the keeper list and see if we can find them one. And again, it doesn't matter really too much how good or bad the guy is. It's just for filling out a roster. So available guys here, we have Chris Short. And you can denote the lefties by the asterisk next to their last name here. And you see their pitching stats are here. This is ERA, and this is WHIP over here in this column. And this is the innings pitched over here in this column. As you know, they're co-mingling, so there's no reason to put headers over each. And plus, I've seen this stuff a bazillion times. I can denote that's earned run average, that's innings pitched, and this is WHIP. Just like this is batting average, this is on base percentage, this is slugging, this is OPS for the hitters. So again, we have Chris Short. He is 31 games, 26 in relief, no, 26 starts, excuse me. So he's really a starter relief in that case. Mike McQueen, he is a relief starter. 17 games, only 3 starts. So McQueen would be a good one. The pound sign is a switch hitter in the case of Ken Henderson. Fred Sherman. There you go. That's a very quality relief pitcher. 2.71 ERA right there. He's a little bit better than Mike McQueen. And then you have Tom Hall, also a very good reliever, 3.33. Well, I'll just make this pretty simple here. Luke Walker, 3.55. The guy with the lowest ERA right off the bat is right there, Fred Sherman, 2.71. I'll give him Fred Sherman. I'll give this team a nice quality relief pitcher. Again, they are the worst team with their number 1. And following this along closely will be your Detroit Tigers. They have the rights, denoted here, in Fred Sherman. So they want to watch him, theoretically, perform in the Winter Baseball Classic. He's on Team 1 of 16, the worst one of a year ago. They only won 2 games. So we cut it in one spot and we paste it into another spot. And just like that, Halifax has the appropriate number of left-handed pitchers on their squad. They just need to find themselves a right-handed starter and reliever, and they can start playing baseball. The league will also, even if rosters are full, they'll take one more crack at replacing ineffective players with better players until it's time for the league to start beginning play. So there's Fred Sherman right there for Halifax. Mississippi, again, if you're wondering how I picked up on the pitching, the hitters are here, starting with the first row, 1 to 12, and the pitchers are going to be down here in rows 13 to 20. So that's how I can tell that Mississippi needs 3 hitters, 2 pitchers, as I put this gray highlight in those areas. So they must have 9 hitters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That sound you hear is his cards. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me just look at the pitching staff again. They are doing okay. They've got 3 left-handers already. And they have... I'm going to leave the pitching staff alone for now. It's pretty good. Osteen, Browse, Ryan, Lyle, Reed, Peronowski in the pen. I want to concentrate on the offense. I think it's more imperative here. They got some catchers, a DH. You got a first baseman. They don't have a second baseman. And they don't have a shortstop. No middle infielders for this team. You can find that out. I just did it by looking at the cards. But when you look up here, we got a first baseman and a third baseman. We do have Andy Koska who can play second base. But this team could really use a nice everyday shortstop or an everyday second baseman. Let's go down to the keeper list. See if we can find one of those guys. All right, we can go to positions right here. Looking for, let's just go through this and find a shortstop if we can. And there's Luis Aparicio. Oh, he'd be a nice player. 2E22 player, being evaluated by the White Sox. That'd be a nice little player. Let's keep going and see if there's anybody better. I doubt it. Marty Martinez. Ed Brinkman. Good glove, weak stick. Poor man's Luis Aparicio. Bert Campaneris is a rangy 3 with a nice bat. And let's see here. What else we got? Do we want to give him Brinkman over Aparicio? As a 2E14 shortstop, give him a nice good shortstop. Let's do that. Let's give him Ed Brinkman. Ed Brinkman. So Ed Brinkman was traded from Detroit in the offseason to Vegas. So Vegas is going to be watching this transaction. He'll play for Mississippi. We'll move Ed Brinkman's card. A Las Vegas player. We think we're going to take the 1972 Ed Brinkman anyway, because he's a 1 at shortstop. Ed Brinkman was, and he got MVP votes. And his defense helped propel the Tigers to the American League East, beating out the Orioles and Red Sox and Yankees and so forth. So the 72 Tigers had great defense at short by Ed Brinkman. So we got the 71 Ed Brinkman in use here. All right, next up is Seattle. Now, Seattle has the appropriate number of players. They've actually filled up just because, and the reason that you're wondering why is this team filled up, it's because they simply had a lot of players who played in the Winter Baseball Classic continuing. And they either played it in 69 or 70 or possibly even that 1980 list we had. So if we want, we could get them a keeper by cutting one of these guys. If I was going to cut a guy, I'd cut a guy who was in this green list, like Hal McRae, because I know Hal McRae's card is already in the league in a future year. Same with Joe Rudy. Joe Rudy's hitting 267 with a 71 card. We already got his 72 card in the league, so there's not much use in looking at Joe Rudy if I wanted to cut him. Some other guys, Harold Bly, Levin Grant. I'm thinking I should get Joe Rudy out of here. And you're wondering, why am I kicking Joe Rudy out? Well, I'm looking at the team, how it's put together. Killebrew, DH, corner out infielder. You got Hal King, Larry Howard catching, Wes Parker at first, Noop at second. You got a couple third basemen here in LeBoy and Oliver. Toby Harrett short, but he's not very good yet. You got Kessinger at short. In your outfield, you have McRae, who, believe it or not, is a 3 in left field. Rick Monday in center. And you only have Joe Rudy in right field, and Joe Rudy's actually a left fielder. So if I could find a nice right fielder on the keeper list, can't imagine why I couldn't. 1, 2, 3. They have 4 left-handed bats on this team. If I could find them a nice everyday right fielder that's better than the stats of this Joe Rudy. And Joe Rudy here, you can tell, is a 690 OPS, and it is 1971. The A's don't win the World Series till 72. Joe Rudy actually had a nice 1970. Very good 1970. Then from 72 to 74, he's good. This is 71, of course. He's not so great. He's a 267 hitting left fielder. So I think I'm going to just make that the call. I'm going to get him out of here. I'm going to move him. I'm going to move him out of the analysis. I'm actually going to just store him in here. There you go. So I'm that's just a storage spot for Joe Rudy. It's a blank row in the spreadsheet. This is so that somebody else might want to pick him up. And I'm going to see if I can find, and I didn't have to look very far. I zeroed in immediately on Merv Retman. There he is. So Merv Retman has a magnificent 1971 for Baltimore. He got traded to the Arizona team to be their first round pick, theoretically, with a .318 bat and an .870 OPS. So the question you have to ask yourself, if you're going to play a little tournament and it's just a fun tournament, don't you want to have, you know, the best players you can get? So I'd rather take a look at this Merv Retman card than that Joe Rudy card. So we're going to send him out to Seattle and take that roster spot. Look at that. So Retman will take Rudy's spot in the outfield for that team as a full-time right fielder. So in this outfield, they got Monday in center, McRae in left. Monday's a 2E6. And Hal McRae is a 3+1 E12. He'll never be a 3 again, as far as I can remember. Just a slightly bit better than Joe Rudy, actually, 718. I could even get him out of the league if I needed to, but... All right, let's keep going. This is not doing too bad. We're going through this pretty quickly. Let's go to the fourth team, Athens. They've got a blank row here at hitter. Yes, they need one hitter, two pitchers. I'm going to pull Athens out here. They should have 11 and then 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's look at the pitching, see if they got enough left-handers. They do not. They need 2 of them. They need 2 left-handers. You got Mike Cuellar, probably be the ace. Get the top pitch in the first game in the tournament for Athens. But everybody else is Pappas, Cloninger, Raleigh Fingers, Mudrobowski, and Abernathy. That's 5 righties, and that's the maximum you can have. So it's time to get some lefties. We've already looked at lefties, and we saw that there was at least one starter, Chris Short, and a couple of relievers. Let's go take a peek here. Remember, we had Chris Short and Mike McQueen, and then we found down here a little bit Tom Hall. And we not get another one? Luke Walker. I'm just going to quickly go over to the whip here. Notice that Luke Walker's got a .131 whip. Tom Hall is a .124. Our guys up top here, it was Short and McQueen. Short's 146, McQueen's $1.25. All these guys they're not too bad. I can see why they're keepers and not put on waivers. Mike McQueen's very interesting because his 70 card got in the league. He was 19 years old. This column is age. So he's a 20-year-old pitcher in 1971 for the Braves. Does a decent job. 125 whip. Let's see. How about Tom Hall, though? I really like Tom Hall can relief and start. Let's give him that. Let's give Tom Hall to this team. The reason I like that is that he can start in relief, and they need both. So they're going to have Hall. Very versatile. He was a Cincinnati. No, he's a Twin. That's right. His last year in Minnesota in '71. And then the good news for him, he shows up in Cincinnati in 1972, goes to a World Series for the Reds, is dominant, and remarkable year in '72 for Tom Hall. I think he's like 10-3 or 10-1. So Tom Hall arrives in Athens and becomes the second lefty on the team. Congratulations, Tom Hall. He is going to Athens, and we'll just stick him in here behind Milt Pappas and ahead of Tony Cloninger. And actually, the bullpen, you've got Raleigh Fingers, Mudrobowski, and Ted Abernathy, so I don't even think the lefty is that big a deal. You could get a crappy lefty reliever with as good as those guys are against righties. All right, we've done 4. Let's go to a 5th team, St. Petersburg. They just need one guy for now. They need a hitter to finish this offense. Let's take a look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is always the hardest thing to do. Get that final piece of the offense or the pitching. It's got to be a specific position and need. You got Bob Watson can DH. You got Ed Herman is a left-handed hitting catcher. Mike Hegan at first. Chico Simone, Jim Beauchamp, Sizemore, and Santo. Gosh, they don't really have a shortstop per se. They got Mota, Klein, Singleton, and Hickman in the outfield. You got a bunch of outfielders. You got a bunch of corner infielders. They really only have Ted Sizemore who can play shortstop. Oh, Chico Simone can play shortstop also. But they're very thin. They might actually need to replace a player here and find themselves a more legitimate shortstop, and they need to get a catcher against the lefties, the platoon with Ed Herman. I think I might just want to. I want to get this team at shortstop. I'm going to keep Sizemore at second, Santo at third, and I'm going to get Aparicio. We looked at him earlier. Let's get Louis Aparicio down here. This team needs a shortstop. I mean, I'm looking. You see, Simone's a 4.48. Sizemore is a 4.48. He's a second baseman by trade. They don't really have a shortstop. Let's get him Aparicio. We know he's out here. Saw him earlier. Got some free scouting done. And there he is. So he is, of course, the White Sox property. So the White Sox will be following Louis Aparicio, playing in St. Petersburg. Oops, that was a copy. I want to do a cut. We'll do a cut here. We'll stick him up on St. Pete, Team 5. Now this team cannot go into baseball and start playing right now because they need to find another catcher. They only have Ed Herman on this team. So what they'll probably end up doing is getting rid of like Jim Beauchamp, probably. He doesn't seem to have much value. Like cut that guy and replace him with a catcher who hits left-handed pitching. That's what I would do with this team. Because you don't really need Beauchamp otherwise. He's just an extra, you know. You're seeing kind of the fun part of how hard it can be to fit 12 position players. Because you have to have 6 everyday players and 6 platoons. Ideally, you'd like 4 outfielders, 4 infielders, and 4 guys to play catcher, first, and DH. So it's a very tricky thing to do, and that's kind of the fun part, though, is when you nail it. So getting Aparicio here is good news because we know 541 plate appearances. He'll be your full-time shortstop. Memphis. They filled out their roster too. But I think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. They're going to yeah, what they have is they got too many right-handed pitchers on this team. We can count them out. They have Pete Mickelson, Phil Niekro, Wayne Granger, Doyle Alexander, Joe Niekro, and Blue Moon Odom. So they have to kick out one of those right-handers and replace them with a lefty. The worst one of these is Blue Moon Odom. Blue Moon Odom is very good in 72, but not in 71. You see, he's already in the league. He's this light green color. These are the guys I like to kick out because I know I don't need to evaluate Blue Moon Odom because his 72 card's in my summer league. But in 71, he was 10-12 with a 4.29 ERA and a 1.55 WHIP. So he's going to move out. It's funny. I'm going to put him. We're going to cut him. I'm going to hit the cut here, and I'll stick him. He's cut, but you know he might get picked up by another team. Let me stick him out right here for the moment. And you see some Oakland players from 71, Joe Rudy and Blue Moon Odom, were just kicked out of the league. That's because the Oakland A's don't need to evaluate those guys, pretty simply. So Odom's gone. They need a lefty reliever. They got Niekro, both of them, Phil and Joe Niekro, Sam McDowell, Doyle Alexander, Granger, McGinn. They need a good lefty setup guy. I think they're going to go for Mike McQueen. We've been talking about this guy for a bit here, and no one's taken him. So we're going to take Mike McQueen as a lefty reliever. Atlanta wants to take a peek at this guy. He's going to be on the Memphis squad. The 16. We're going to stick him right there in Odom's old spot. And there you go. So now they got the proper number of roster spots. They got a rotation of Phil Niekro, Sam McDowell, Joe Niekro, Doyle Alexander. That's 3 righties and a lefty, and a bullpen of Dan McGinn, Wayne Granger, Pete Mickelson, and Mike McQueen. Interestingly, Granger is probably good enough to be a closer. Was with the Reds, sort of. Pete Mickelson was very good for the Dodgers. He's good enough to be a closer. So that's a pretty good pitching staff for Memphis. We'll do a couple more and then we'll call it. We'll get through 8 teams. We'll go Mexico and Savannah and call it. This has been kind of a fun thing to do, but you know, it's going to take a long time to finish this thing, and I don't want to make this thing an incredibly long video. Mexico needs 2 pitchers. They have Perry, Segui, Simpson, Marcelino Lopez, Tom Dukes. Perry can pitch on 3 days rest, of course. Nobody else can. I kind of waive that 3 days rest rule for the tournament. I just go with 4 starters. It's that kind of tournament. You're just not going to find, you know, 2 guys who can pitch on 3 days rest like I do in the Summer League. They could certainly use a starter 7. They could certainly use a lefty. I can give them Chris Short if there's nobody better. Let's go take a peek, because we're running out of lefties, are we not, finally? That's usually what happens. That makes sense. You start running out of left-handed pitchers. You got Chris Short is left. And I think he might have been the last one left. Luke Walker. I think I might give him Luke Walker. Luke Walker, it's funny, but this pitching staff has Diego Segui. And you'll see momentarily. We'll give him Luke Walker. You see that he is Seattle's property in the draft. And why this is so kind of cool is that another Seattle player will be here on Mexico. And that is Diego Segui. So 2 of these pitchers in the Mexico squad, Segui and Walker, are both being protected by the Seattle Mariners. So they'll follow this one team closely and look at their 2 prospects and see whose 71 card plays better. It's kind of cool. But actually both guys' cards are not too bad, right? You got Segui here. He's got a 3.14 ERA and a 1.26. And you got Walker here. Look at that, they're both 10-8. 10-8, 3.14, 10-8, 3.55. 146 innings, 159 innings. And both property of the Seattle Mariners. So I got Gaylord Perry, Diego Segui, Luke Walker at the top of the rotation with Wayne Simpson. Marcelino Lopez, Tom Dukes in the bullpen. And we'll stop this with the 8th team, Savannah. And then we'll take a break. Come back to this in a little bit. Savannah right here needs 3 hitters and 2 pitchers. I'm going to concentrate on the pitching again. They'll only need 2 lefty relievers. Their rotation is Bob Gibson, Bruce Delcatten's a starter 7, Jim Merritt's a starter 6, and Bob Moose is a starter 6. That's good enough to be a rotation with 1 lefty starter. They don't have a lefty in the bullpen. I think it's time to go with Chris Short. That's the last guy, if I'm not mistaken, right? We've been skipping him a few times. But we'll give him Chris Short. So we'll do a cut here of Chris Short. We'll go up to Savannah as team 8. Here they are. We'll put Chris Short right there. Now they got a lefty. And, you know, one way I can quickly, there's multiple ways of doing this stuff, is I can actually look at the keepers individually and scroll through and see if whether a lefty is in there. I don't want to, you know, use my spreadsheet to do that. I'm flipping through all the keeper cards. They're in the same sequence that spreadsheet's in. And we have exhausted that. So, here's the situation with Chris Short, but taken by team 8 here. I'm going to go down to the keeper list. There are no more left-handed pitchers available in the draft if you stop with just the keepers. So the next avenue of looking for lefty help, you'd have to go to the undesirable free agents who haven't been in the league yet. And in this list, you're going to expect a ton of righties. You'd be correct. You have a exclusive list of righties until you get right here. The last guy on the list is Bill Laxton. Because Strat made his card, he's got an ERA of 6.83. But congratulations, Bill, you throw with your left arm. Some team might pick you up. Yeah. So then you're going to ask, well, where do you find your lefties at if there's none available? Well, you can go back up to here. There are going to be more players up here. And again, these are, like I said, these cards are Strat-O-Matic cards from the 71 set. But we have the 72 or 73 version of this player in the Summer League. So we're not really doing an evaluation, but we're trying to fill out a roster spot in a tournament because the team needs a lefty pitcher. So here, looking at lefties who pitch, we have Jim Schellenbach. Not too bad. He was better in 72. That's the year we have him in the league. 3-11 with a 3.53 ERA. There's Ken Reynolds. He's got a 4.49 ERA. There's Ken Brett. He's got a 5.34 ERA, as predicted. You got Jim Cott here with a 3.32 ERA. Well, that's because we have Jim Cott in our Summer League with an ERA around 2. One of his best years, I think, was 72, I believe. So Jim Cott's sitting there. He thought he was going to have spring training off to do some fly fishing or something like that, but he might get a call. The Winter Baseball Classics running out of left-handed pitchers, Jim. We need you to help us out. So Jim Cott might be called into action. And Steve Barber is down here as well. So you see there are lefties. And even after all that, you still have the nameless cards, which I don't want to use. This is the break glass in case of emergency. You still have these guys, and these guys are actually in a Winter Baseball Classic. You see their designations here in previous versions of this. From this list, you have Bill Butler as a left-handed pitcher. You have John Matlack. Of course, he barely pitched for the Mets in 71. He made his big splash in 72. Of course, we know that Matlack won Rookie of the Year in 72, and oh, by the way, the Mets won the World Series once they added him to the roster in the Summer League a couple of years ago. So Matlack's available with a nameless card. And then I think that may be, Bob Veal. And then there's Bob Veal. So there are guys, and that's the good news. The World Baseball Classic is only 320 cards. And it's not about who wins this thing. There's not like a big gaudy trophy or bragging rights or whatever. It's just a way of getting a look at all the cards we want to look at for the Summer League draft begins. So with that, we're going to pause this. We'll get back to this with more picks. I'll probably skip a little bit. See if I can do a round where I concentrate on these guys. These are the last ditch, the last chance university for your Dennis Papekes, Bob Didiers, Fred Kendall, Mike Fiore, Frank Tepedino, a very young Lenny Randall, a very old Zolo Forsythe, for instance. I might do this as the next part of the video. All right. Thanks for checking this out, folks. We'll see you next time.